So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's really, really a pleasure to gather these young people today and hear their stories. So the future belongs to young people, right? So it's always exciting when young people are involved in emerging and bleeding edge technology. And I thought it was a good idea to hear from them because they are the future. They've got sharper brains than us, especially me. And it's always nice to learn from young people what exactly the future looks like for them, what are their aspirations, what kind of visions they have, and all that. Somebody always say to me that in order to stay young, you have to keep connected with young people because they always have got a very interesting perspective of life. They are not they are not tainted by experience like what happens as you grow older. You get to get stuck on certain things and to just lose this creativity, this flexibility, and this energy to just keep going on and trying new things and jumping on stuff and figuring out how things go as as you move on. So it's really, really exciting to have Muwaki. Thank you very much for doing this, and we're looking forward to hear your story. And yes, I can hear you. I can hear you very well. I think I can hear you. You could try again to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Great stuff. Yeah, exactly. You're very good. So you sound very good. So that's okay. So what we've done is to try and gather more young people like Muwaki to just make the story real for him and to bring his friends from across the world. So we are going to hear later on from Anisha, from Ada, and from Vidranga, and many others who may be able to join us today about their quantum story, quantum journey, what led them to quantum, how was the first time they thought it was something exciting, what was happening. It's always those fascinating stories we want to hear. So this is a laid-back environment, really. It's, off the hook. We just want to have a platform where we share stories and try to inspire each other and to move quantum forward in one way or another. So it's really exciting. So thanks, Muwaki, for coming through and for joining us. So let me give you your floor. It's actually your day, you guys. So we're just going to be, seated in the terraces and, following your discussion, and perhaps later on we're going to come back with questions, but nothing hard, nothing difficult. We just want to find out how you're seeing things and what kind of support you need and what kind of resources are there to support your growth in quantum, and how can we work together to move the field forward and make it welcoming and also very real for people who want to develop or take quantum as a career. So without boring you with the details, I just thought I would share the foundation so that everybody understands why we are here and what we want to do and what we look forward to achieve. So with that, thank you guys for joining, and Muwaki, the floor is yours. Take it away and let's hear your story as real as it can get.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, you're still audible. And let me just fix something that will allow you to share your screen in case you have got something that you want to share. So
No, that won't be necessary for me specifically.
no worries. But if anybody needs to share anything on the screen, let me know, and we'll just upgrade the security environment to allow you to do that. But since nobody needs it at the moment, we're going to keep it like that. So yeah, let's take it forward. And it's also encouraged, if you are comfortable, to activate your video so that we make it real. But it's okay if you are not comfortable with that, since you see that we want to have a conversation. So we want to feel more of your presence if you can. But if you can't, that's okay. We would understand.
All right.
So yeah. That's okay. Thank you, Marky.
Okay, awesome. I hope my connection will work. For anyone who knows Zimbabwean connections, you know that the internet isn't always great, especially with the video working. I'm not sure if things will be completely perfect, but here's to hoping they will be. So, for I said, I'm Muvaki Shlema. I am a 17-year-old high school student in my final year, here studying and living in Harare, Zimbabwe, as I always have. So, how did I get into quantum? I think that's a really long story, but I guess to go way back to the time when I was a little kid, I think I was always a kid who dreamed a lot. I was a very optimistic kid and who believed, you could change the world like a lot of kids do. And I remember as a kid, always wanting to be an inventor. I didn't know why I thought that was a career path or anything, but I just thought, okay, I want to be an inventor like Alexander Graham Bell or Thomas Edison or whatever great inventors come to mind. And over time, that interest in inventing started leading me to an interest in technology. Around the time just before I entered high school, so about around the age of 11, 12, I got really into all things tech. So that was computers, that was cell phones, whatever I could get my hand on. And through that, learning about these really interesting pieces of technology, I started wanting to learn how they worked. Because, for me, it wasn't enough to just be able to hold a phone. I wanted to figure out how these ones and zeros I heard computers were made out of translated into graphics and all these complex functions that would then seem so simplistic on my side. And so that crystallized somewhere around there into an interest into computer science in general and classical computers as we see them. So about that time, I went into high school, as I said, and I started to really develop this interest in computer science. I started to look towards the future of, okay, what careers are there in computer science? I think it was around the time I was about 14. I was just starting my IGCSE O-level curriculum. And I found myself, finally getting to study computer science at a higher level, like the way I'd always wanted to learn. I was learning about those ones and zeros and everything. But for some reason, things just weren't clicking with me at the time. Like I was feeling very disillusioned with school in general. And for me, it didn't quite feel like what I was learning were the kind of things I wanted to be learning about. And so when the curriculum wasn't enough, I started to turn to other sources. I started to read widely about behavioral psychology, economics, things that had nothing to do with all these things I've been interested in for the longest time. And somehow, I think it must have been fate, but I somehow always got drawn back to sciences and all these things that were super interesting to me. And the moment I encountered them, they always just clicked a certain way. So for me, that was quantum computing. It was through many ways of just like traveling on YouTube and just seeing all these videos about quantum physics, about computer science. And at some point they converged and it blew my mind. I think for me, the thing that really brought me into quantum computing was just that I've always really had a taste for novelty and I guess impact. And so for me with quantum computing, I really did see it as this novel field that promised such exciting things. And more than that, the things it promised seemed like they could change the world in ways I probably can't even fathom to this day. So around that time, I got into quantum computing, but at the time, it seemed like a really esoteric field of science, really too narrow for anyone to be interested in. And I didn't feel like there were any meaningful communities, I guess, that were interested in that kind of thing around at the time, especially not in Zimbabwe, especially not for a kid like me. And so, for a while, it just became somewhat of a background interest, I guess. I kind of went through my life. I was doing my schoolwork, I was doing all these other things, and this quantum computing thing was just something that was lying on the wayside. And so it only really happened about a few months ago that, after many years of being interested in this, but maybe never taking it too far, I happened to just stumble upon the Qiskit YouTube channel. And if you know anything about quantum computing, maybe you've heard the term Qiskit and the community they have there, obviously. And specifically, I was following this channel just because I was so interested in this field of quantum computing that I'd never heard anyone talk about. And suddenly it was anything everyone was talking about. It was all the rage. And so it just so happened that one day I was watching one of their videos, and it actually happened to be a talk Farima gave for that is on the Kiskit YouTube channel right now. And I remember the thing that was striking me before anything was even said was that's a very Zimbabwean name. Like this field of quantum computing has Zimbabweans now. And for me, that was mind blowing. I was like, are you telling me there are people interested in the same thing I'm interested in my communities? And that was so exciting and so heartwarming. And I think around the same time, I just happened to start being on LinkedIn, right? And I think I was just following a lot of people and connected to a bunch of people who were interested in in the same things. And it just so happened that one of these people commented on this one post someone had put on LinkedIn about how they'd been at one of our weekly QZIM meetings, just like this. And they're saying, oh, I was with Faramazandu and we were talking about all these interesting quantum computing concepts. And this guy was then just like, well, why aren't people in Zimbabwe talking about quantum computing? It feels like there's so much promise, but I never hear anyone say anything about it. And from there, I mean, I just saw Farai bring up all these resources and say, there are people talking about it. We're a small community, but we're a dedicated one. He pointed to the OneQuantum newsletter. Pointed to the WhatsApp groups and all of those things. And suddenly it felt like I hit the jackpot. This interest that had always been something in the wayside, something that had just been something I was interested in, but didn't think there was any future in, it started to feel a bit more tangible, like something people were working towards and something I could be a part of and contribute to in some meaningful way. So I started attending these meetings, and initially, I mean, you know, you're getting your bearings around these things aren't making sense. You're hearing about something about Grover's algorithm in Jupyter Notebook, and your eyes are glazing over. But I think one of the biggest things about this community in specific, and as small as it has been incredibly helpful and incredibly supportive, and told me that, you know, it's okay not to know things. It's okay to be confused. So many people are, there are rarely any experts. And within that, it started, you know, prompting me to want to share this gospel of sorts with others of quantum computing. Started turning to my friends and people whenever I'd hear there was a OneQuantum Africa meeting, whenever I'd hear there's a King Quantum and Zim meeting, I'd always be saying, hey, this meeting is going on. If you're interested in science, if you're interested in new fields that could be the future, that could be tomorrow, this is where you want to be. And I think through that, this experience I've gotten from just entering this community has been really invaluable. And not just the connections I've made, but just in being able to further this interest that I've had for the longest time. I think for me, I've always been an avid learner. It didn't matter what I was learning. If it was something that required a lot of time and dedication to get good at, to learn more about, it was something that I wanted to know even the slightest bit about. So for me, that was quantum computing for the longest time. And I guess just connecting with this community gave me this chance to learn more about it. And through that, I started learning about the different applications of quantum computing, the future it has in medicine, in security. And I think that has been invaluable. And that really brought me to where I am here today, speaking in front of all of you. So I don't know if my story is particularly eventful or anything, but that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah.
Sounds good, Maki. Really, really, I'm really grateful that you think we are on something that's exciting and that has kept you hooked. Thank you very much for the kind words and for thinking this is something that we should take forward, and it is working in some way to just, sustain your interest and to show some practical applications and practical opportunities. It's really a pleasure that we've been able to do that, and we hope to keep doing it and getting better at it. Next, let us hear perhaps a story from Vidranga. Then we'll go to Ada, and we will end with Anisha for strategic reasons. I want Anisha to listen to their stories and perhaps give us her story as well as put everything else in context if she may. So, Vidranga, let's hear your story. I see that you are an avid mathematician.
Am I audible?
Yes, we are. We can hear you very well. Thank you. You can go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you for the opportunity. What I have to share here is a little bit of a different kind of story because uh, the reason to get into quantum computing was uh, I was so much interested in quantum mechanics and mathematics, and so what got me into quantum computing is that many courses or free opportunities or documentations had many mathematics and quantum mechanics in those. So they were explained in a basic manner for high school students or undergraduates. So in quantum mechanics, that wasn't something that I saw much in quantum mechanics. So that's what drove me to quantum computing at first place. When I got into quantum computing and when I heard about the applications and all, uh, I thought that there was something missing in the applications part. Because if you take Shaw's algorithm or Grover's algorithm, we all are talking about how we can use it to cybersecurity, but we are missing the main part that there is math inside there. If you are breaking a factoring or something, there's maths inside that. So there are many problems. If you Google or you are interested in math, definitely you will find that there are tons of problems that haven't been tackled because they require a lot of computation power and brute force methods to calculate. So mathematicians are trying their best to prove it using theorems. So since they can't use the brute force methods to calculate them, so uh, I think there is a bigger opportunity in mathematics field to use quantum computing, especially to solve those kinds of problems that requires brute force methods to calculate or prove the theorems. So as I said, I got into quantum computing just to learn quantum mechanics and mathematics because all the courses listed on they have listed in the syllabus that they cover the basic fundamental mathematics and quantum mechanics part. So that's what got me into quantum computing. And after I got into that, uh, I saw that there's a great opportunity where I can apply quantum computing into mathematics. So, and of course, Farai, I met Farai from, I think, Push Quantum. So even he confirmed me that this is a good technology to dive into. So I think I'm looking forward to study more quantum computing in the future as well. So I think that's my story about my story into quantum computing.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Very interesting perspective. At least you're coming from a mathematical direction, and this is why we wanted to gather you guys because we've got different stories, and it just helps people to see that quantum needs all of us in order to move forward. And it has got this, it has got impact in many different areas, and it's up to you to look at your area of interest and see what problems are still there to solve, what challenges are there, where can quantum be applied. Obviously, it's not a panacea for everything, but I think in almost every industry, you can always figure out a certain aspect that can benefit from some quantum advantage. Ada, would you mind to come through and let's hear your story as well? And I know it's different and it's exciting as well.
Of course, hello everyone. I'm Arda Hayrabai, and I'm a 10th grade student in Bahçeşehir College High School in Turkey. Before diving into how I learned quantum computing and what is classical computing, and basically, I want to talk about my childhood, my interests. I have always been a curiosity and entering high school student, and I have always been interested in areas such as logic And
sorry, Ada, just a moment. Your sound seems a bit faint. I'm not sure if you are a bit far from the mic or something.
Okay,
In case you can,
Am I
fix
clear?
that. Yes, I think you are better now.
Okay, I'm a little bit closer. My name is Arda Hayrabai. I'm a high school student at Turkey. I'm a 10th grade student. I'm at logical areas interested in, so I have always been interested in logical areas since my childhood. So I always did research about mathematics, physics, chemistry, but I just really didn't know that I want to be a quantum computing engineer, or something like that. This just happened eventually. Since my childhood, I have always been interested in areas like math, physics, and chemistry, but I didn't know that what should I do with them. In November, I applied to a course which is about quantum computing. It's Qubit by Qubit. In there, I learned many things like what is classical computing, what is quantum computing. If I just go there superficial, the quantum computing that I learned is something way different than classical computing. I mean, it is just not by zeros and one. It can be both of them simultaneously. So I just learned that what I learned is not only by ones and zeros. In this course, I learned the differences between classical and quantum computers, what is quantum computing, mathematics for quantum, Python for quantum computing, and many other things. So I can suggest you that you should have a great background about mathematics. It just really helped me that I tried to learn mathematics when I was young. So I can suggest you to make your math background pretty stronger, that you can understand quantum mechanics and the other quantum stuffs pretty easily. And the other recommendation that I make to you is that co- coding is pretty important for quantum computing, so that how fast you can learn classical computing, the better you can learn quantum computing too. So after Python for quantum, I started to just learn quantum computing more and more. That I dived into quantum mechanics and quantum physics, circuit models, and of course the Qiskit, which I got really hard in the Qiskit part. Qiskit is pretty harder than the classical computers, I think, because in the classical computers you have only ones and zeros, nothing more than that. But the quantum is pretty harder because you have matrices, which is represented by gates, which is doing simultaneously of that is getting harder and harder. But if you just work hard and try to make it better, you can just do it as you like. So uh, I suggest you to work harder on the circuit models. And then in this course, I gave my final exam today, which was pretty good for me. Um, Exam subjects was quantum protocols and quantum algorithms, which was pretty hard for to learn. But if you want it from your heart, you can just make it pretty easily. And also, I attended to a competition organized by the Research Science Council of Turkey, and I was the champion of my regions. And I used quantum computing in my project, so I can briefly say that quantum computing is just not for science. You can intangible into your life. So this is another benefit of quantum computing. And my goal is to popularize such an impressive and helpful application to the real world. So that's my story.
Thank you very much, Adam. A
You're
really inspiring story and full of practicalities and practical steps that you have taken to get to where you are. Really a pleasure to hear that story. Really inspiring. So, well, keep it it, and thank you for the advice as well. I hope young people and all of us can learn a lot from that as well. So yes, Anisha, you can come through and let's hear your story. And after this, we'll have some questions for you guys and just perhaps open the discussion to everybody who managed to join us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So hello, everyone. I'm Anisha. I am 16 now, and I'm from the States. I actually wasn't a STEM kid at all. So I wasn't even interested in science and math when I first learned about it. I thought I was more of a humanities, art, and speaking person. I actually was part of the debate team, and that was a really big part of who I was for a long time. But someone introduced me to quantum computing, and at first I was like, okay, I mean, this is pretty cool because it's just like everything I've ever seen in the movies, right? And now it seems like it's something that can be done in real life with the real technology. So I looked a little bit more into it and I realized that it was based heavily in computer science and mathematics. And so once I started going down that route, it actually like lured me in and I was just so intrigued by everything that quantum computing had to offer. But I had a same I had a similar situation that I was in as Mukabi had, where I wanted to get into it, but I wasn't sure if anyone else was doing it around me because no one in my high school knew what it was. Nobody wanted to do it with me. And I was just very, very lost in the journey. But eventually, I met the Qiskit community in New York, based because IBM is located here, and I joined that, and I was able to meet a ton of other people in quantum computing. But none of those people were high school students. Even when I was meeting all these people who were like doing it, it was very like early college students, or like maybe even people who are just out of college, which was a bit reassuring because to me, I was like, okay, at least somebody is doing it. At least there's someone I can participate with, but it wasn't anyone my age. So I noticed this problem, and I also noticed the implications that problem had because so little high schoolers are doing it. There's like a self-reinforcing cycle, whereas people don't think that high schoolers can do anything in quantum computing. And because they don't think high schoolers can do anything in quantum computing, they don't create things to teach quantum computing to high school students. So I created an organization called Community, which is basically an international organization that allows everyone, especially young individuals, to learn quantum computing. And obviously, it's not like a substitute for going to college and getting your graduate's degree or your PhD, but our goal is that we create the resources to get people engaged in quantum and provide them with a community that they can ask questions with, they can meet other people who are just as young as them and also interested. Which is why when Farai reached out to me and was like, I have a group of high schoolers in Zimbabwe who are super excited about quantum computing, I was like, that's amazing, because so far I've only been able to really meet a lot of people from the United States, and I really want to expand that. I want to make sure that I'm able to meet people from all over the world. So yeah, that's a little bit about my story. And yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Anisha. So anyway, let's open the floor to everybody. If you have something to ask these guys or something you want to know about their story or something to say to add to the presentations we have had, beautiful presentations, I should say. You know, you guys, your stories are so real and so inspiring, I would say, because you come from different backgrounds. There are different ways that you ended up in quantum. There's problems we have seen, the practical steps we have taken to try and deal with that. And, you know, I can only be excited about what the future looks like and what comes next for you guys. So yeah, keep at it and well done. And it's really a pleasure that you guys were able to gather and to come through for this session. It's really important. And I hope each and everyone who's going to have an opportunity to watch this later on will find it inspiring and it will, you know, make it real for them as well. So yeah, I usually have a lot of questions or things that I want to ask, but well, let's have Lorraine. What's your comment? Let's hear what you think about this group and about what you heard today. What new ideas were flying in your mind when you were hearing their stories, and what do you think you want them to say more about, or you want to ask them, or anything you want to say?
Thank you for, can you hear me?
Very well.
All right, thank you. So thank you guys, Raki, Anisha, Ada, and Vedran, for sharing your very interesting stories. That was really inspiring and very nice to hear from high school students. Fortunately, I caught on, I boarded the quantum plane a little later than you guys, but it's never too late. I'm in college I think in August, I'll be starting my final year in college. So it would have been nice to come across quantum earlier and probably I would have built stronger mathematical background. But anyways, I've managed to do that since I did a little bit of math in high school, and my program in college also requires maths. I'm studying information technology, so it also requires maths. So it's working out well. And I like that. I recently started reading a book titled Physics of the Impossible. So it's saying that, okay, one of the stories that was mentioned was how okay, I forgot the name of whoever came up with the plane flying, but before he did that, he was told there is nothing that it's impossible. There is nothing that could fly because nothing that's heavier than air. But they believed in the impossible, and I like that you guys also believe in what others call the impossible. Some people refer to quantum as the impossible because they think, how is that possible? Like they explained about people know ones and zeros, but 1 and 0 at the same time, it's to them that's the impossible. So I like that you guys have taken a step to believe in the impossible, and that's how great things start. All great things start with one person who believes in the impossible, and I like that you guys are very determined and you believe in the impossible. And I'm happy to also see that there's Anisha. Women are always a bit underrepresented in this department, so this makes me feel like, hey, women type of thing. So so I'm happy to see that, and you guys are doing great work, so keep at it. Believe that you can do this. This is it's taking a risk, and great things always come when people are like, no, that can't be done, and you believe in it. So it's changing the world one step at a time, and it's good that you guys were willing to also inspire others, and I hope Zimbabweans will be moved and also get on I would call it the quantum plane. Maybe it's because I like flying, but anyways, I'll call it the quantum plane, and join in on this great journey. So thank you for sharing your very inspiring stories, and I hope we stay connected and help each other. Like Ada said, I'm also with Qubit by Qubit, the coding school. So yes, I have faced the same challenges. So it's something we could talk about and share notes. Anisha, I'm also still trying to help other females and other people in Zimbabwe in general. So we could collaborate. I've struggled with maths even in college, so definitely I would need your help. And Muraki, you're so close to home, so I would always visit and still ask for help. So thank you guys. I hope we should keep in touch and connect and keep the conversation going. Thank you, Farai.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for that beautiful, characterization of this conversation and all the takeaways that are important for us. I'm not sure, Esther, we want to give everybody a chance to contribute. Let's hear you, Esther, Talent, and then Andy. Anything else? Then I'll ask questions, or you will also ask questions, and we'll see how to take this forward.
Okay. Thank you so much, Farai, and thank you so much to the presenters. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for the presenters. It's really inspiring to hear your stories and the fact that you actually took action and you're making an effort to actually make quantum real in your respective areas. So I really applaud that, and it's inspiring. I have a question for Anisha. Since she started an organization community, I'm just interested in the response that you are getting from your peers and the young people, since you say that it's there for, especially to the young people. So I'm interested in the response you've gotten so far. How has it been, and what are the challenges you've faced in building up a community like community? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally the response is great. Actually, like we get tons of emails all the time about people who were lost in quantum and then found community and the people in community and were able to find their way. And tons of people who use the videos, the tutorials, the resources to get started in their quantum journey. Something that I thought was the biggest difficulty in building the community was just we did find a lot of high schoolers who were already interested in quantum and then joined our community. But what was even harder is finding regular high school students who were just interested in maybe like math, maybe computer science, and getting them to think that quantum is the next big thing. Because there is so much of a stigma surrounding quantum that it's like only for geniuses and like it's super hard to learn. And that's not to say that anyone's quantum isn't very smart, but it's definitely doable if you put the time into it so you can learn it. And just overpassing that, like bypassing that stigma and letting young people believe that they can be part of this community was probably the biggest thing. And the way we overcame that is we just started talking about kids who've already done it. Like, see, look at like this kid, this kid, this kid, and this kid who all joined the quantum community and all did such amazing things. That means you can do it too. And these people came from nothing. Just like showcasing their stories is kind of like use cases of like, here we go. Like these people have done it before. So like now it's your turn. You can join the community as well. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yeah, that answered it. Thank you so much. And thank you, Farai. I think that's it from me.
Sounds good. Talent, I think it's talent. Yes, let's hear from you. Anything that you want to say?
Hello, guys.
Hello, we can hear you very well, loud and clear.
Okay. I just want to thank all the presenters for the amazing stories that they were sharing. It's quite interesting, actually, considering that the age, most of you are still in high school and stuff. That's quite interesting and that's quite good. It's quite challenging, in fact, because I'm even new to quantum computing and stuff and all this. I haven't really sat down and just give it much time to consider all the subject area. But it shows your initiative is quite encouraging, actually. And I just wanted to say, we are living in a world whereby we should not only confine ourselves to the classroom knowledge. I think in this era, programs like quantum computing, all those fields of study, which are saying these are the next big thing, the technology drivers or the drivers which are going to produce innovative technologies and all the disruption in the tech industry. It's quite important that you keep up the good work. I've heard from Mr. Landers there, he was talking about the different applications of quantum computing in your area. Yeah, I think it's quite good that at this particular age we get to learn more and find means and ways how we can try to solve the real world problems that we are facing currently. And this disruptive innovation, I'm sure you can in the next 5 to 10 years, we might be able to see millionaires rising from this using this knowledge. So I think it's quite a good work, and I hope and believe that with your persistence in pursuing this field of study, that we will be quite successful.
Thank you very much, Talent, for the wise words and for the words of encouragement. Andy, if you can, you may unmute yourself and perhaps come through.
Hello, Farai. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Nandi. How are you?
I'm good. I don't think I have much to add on because I think most of what I wanted to say has been said by talent. The fact that you guys, you're also young and you're already, deep into this new thing that's just started. That's quantum technology. I think that's just something that's in itself amazing because 16 I wasn't even thinking about starting any initiatives to get other people, to get my peers involved in in anything really. So I think the fact that Anisha is doing that, that's just it's awesome. And you know um it's amazing, you guys. But yeah, I think we're still at that stage where something is just starting, and when it's just starting, you have very few people who are into the thing. But I believe that as time goes on, it will, the curve will level out and we'll have more and more people adopting this thing. So when you guys, you're like when you get involved in it at the early stages, you have, how do I say, you have more of an advantage because, you start early, so by the time others join, you guys will be to coin that, maybe you guys will be the experts or whatever you wanted, but you have an advantage. And if you really push through this thing, because as I'm going through some of the applications that are there in quantum technology, there are a lot, you guys. And it's not just quantum computing, because you even have quantum applications in medicine, in life insurance, healthcare, business, cybersecurity, all those areas that are just waiting for, for quantum technology to just get in and disrupt, how things are working. So it's a great thing that you guys have got going, and keep it good. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadi. Really, interesting to hear from you and your encouragement as well. Yes, so we come back to Milwaukee. Do you have a question to ask to the platform or anything that you would want to say now that everybody has managed to present and weigh in? Is there anything else that you would want to say as well?
Yeah, firstly, all of you guys are just so impressive in the ways you've just taken the initiatives to achieve so many incredible things in quantum. I think it's actually just so cool to get to see people from all across the world be interested in this thing. It helps you feel less isolated in it, I guess. Getting to know that someone literally halfway across the world is interested in similar things to you. So I guess if I have questions for people, I think I have like one broad question for everyone. Where do they see themselves going with quantum technologies? Is it something they feel is just an interest? Is it something they feel will be a career path? And for Anisha specifically, I want to ask, what do you think was probably the most effective method you used to sort of build your community, like the community around quantum? Because I'm guessing, when I was starting out, it wasn't super easy, but what did you feel were methods that helped it finally get off the ground?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I can go first. Where I see myself going in quantum is definitely at least like to the college level, which is where I'm up to next after high school. And I want to get like really solid education. And because obviously like there's so much more to learn just beyond what there is in high school. And I want to work somewhere in the corporate side of quantum, so in the startup world, and do some research there. Ideally create like quantum applications, because I think that's the most exciting part, actually like creating products and giving them to users and seeing the impact, like you said, that you can create as a person. And while that is possible in academia, it usually takes longer for you to see your results actually come to fruition, which is why I want to go into the corporate side for that impact. For community, what I think we found most effective was just word of mouth, really. I feel like a lot of times people underestimate the power of word of mouth. If you just create a community that people love, like the people are just going to talk about the community, like we want to have people come in just like the community so much that they go outside and start talking about it. So whenever we have events, we always ask people like, how did you hear about us? And like 95% of them will be like, from a friend. And that's like the best part, right? Because like if they like the event, they'll go tell their friends and then their friends come. And I feel like that's the best way to grow, because these people are seeking out and talking to people who they know are very interested in type of things that quantum computing attracts. So it was that, and also a combination of, we attended a ton of events, we networked with a lot of people, we like tried to get to know people at like the biggest quantum companies. Like we tried to get to know people at IBM, we tried to get to know people at like Rigetti, at Zapata, at these companies, and just tried to like integrate ourselves with the quantum world as much as possible. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yes, Vidranga and Ada, I think you may want to answer the same question from Waki, and we'll get back to him, and you will have to answer his questions as well.
Where I see myself in future, I can probably say that because of quantum computing is a multidisciplinary, application. I think that quantum computing can be used for finance, chemistry, physics, biology, neurosciences, and just many other areas. So if we can look from another perspective, I can see that when I go to college, I want to study medicines, and I can combine medicines and quantum computing in a different way so that I can help people in another different way.
Okay, sounds good. Vidranga, what would you say to the same questions, I guess?
So what I say in quantum computing is that we are still at the gate level of quantum computing. We are just programming the gates right now, just as in the classical systems. So there should be many opportunities, as you should know that, in classical computers, we don't have even viruses in quantum computers yet, right? So we don't have any kind of those stuff that happened in the classical computing era. So there should be much opportunities in the future. And about my path into quantum computing, I would like to be more of a theoretical physicist. So I would like to combine quantum computing into that, and both help quantum mechanics or quantum computing, or to use quantum computing to solve problems in physics or maths. So that's what I am looking forward to.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yes. Mulaki, getting back to you. So where do you see yourself with quantum? Are you only following it for interest at the moment? Have you sat down and wrapped your head around the opportunities and what you think you may want to do? I know being in Zimbabwe may make that very hard, but I'm just wondering what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think for me with quantum, it's definitely one of those things where it's an interest that is developed over time. And I can't think of a world that's going to be going for quantum where I want to be left behind. So I think in as much as since my interests definitely lie in computer science, I think anything I'll be doing will probably be very computer science related. I know, for instance, that I think cybersecurity is a really interesting field that quantum computing has a lot of interesting implications with the ideas of quantum key distribution and just how it's going to revolutionize the way we look at security as a whole. I think that's something I definitely would be interested in doing. And I think as far as I'm a person who very much still has to crystallize their interests, and I don't know if I have anything set in stone just as of yet. But I truly think that quantum is something that, since I've gotten to get it to be a part of my life, I really wouldn't want it to leave. So I think, yeah, definitely something related to computer science. I think I'm also very interested in both practical and theoretical levels, I think similarly, because it's just for different reasons. I think on practical, it is nice to see the impact. And then on theoretical, I think I just have a tendency to just like to look at the beauty of the science sometimes. So I guess for me, my interests are still very uncrystallized. And that's kind of why I wanted to hear what everyone else was thinking about, to see like where their minds are at. And, you know, maybe there are similar interests I can look into.
Sounds good, really awesome. So in terms of security, we after the security related or security focused meeting we had at OneQuantum Africa a few weeks ago, we've got another one coming this week with Stepan Kovac from Switzerland. He's a guru in the space and involved with ITU. And with standardization for quantum security as well. So he's going to come and share some practical stuff about what's happening in cybersecurity, especially using post-quantum techniques and anything related to that, as well as, you know, whether there is anything to worry about in terms of blockchain technology when quantum computing, you know, improves and we get to universal quantum computing levels. So that will be something that you want to check out. So yeah, just say in passing. And also obviously the summit that we're hosting May 12 and 13, we will also bring experts in other areas of quantum. I think like Nandi said, it's really a broad field. You have your quantum sensing, where we are improving the resolution and managing to sense at a finer level. Our MRI, you know, we can even make it better to improve resolution and even, you know, improve how diagnosis is done by the guys in the medical industry. We've got, you know, your atomic clocks, you know, for example, in Africa, we don't have an atomic clock, we would need one for sovereignty purposes. And for argument's sake, gravity in Africa is different from gravity elsewhere. And that has got a different impact in terms of how how time progresses, and we definitely need those capabilities. So there are going to be professors who are going to share about research in Africa, what are the low-hanging fruits of quantum technologies in general in Africa, which includes quantum computing, quantum communications, where your quantum key distribution comes, quantum sensing and metrology. And just in computing, I always want to separate the computing aspect and the simulation aspect, because sometimes perhaps we lose out that there are also quantum simulation applications, which are very important, especially in condensed matter physics, to just try out a lot of these other experiments we can't yet do in the lab because of the complexity required to actually, you know, consummate the experiments in physical space and the expenses that are involved. So we may see labs being decentralized, coming online and allowing a lot of trial and error to happen without losing much in terms of material and in terms of time, in terms of investment. So I thought I could just broadly talk about those things in passing. I've got a few questions that I want to ask you guys just for interest. To each and every one of you, especially Mwaki, Ada, and Viduranga, what has been the surprises that we have seen in the quantum tech space? Allow me to call it quantum technology in the quantum tech space. What has surprised you ever since you got hooked, or ever since you started paying attention? What has surprised you in a happy way and in a sad way, if ever there is anything like that? So yeah, Mwaki, let's start with you and let's go to Ada and Viduranga.
I think for me, it's just the scope of what quantum technology encompasses. I think you making that distinction between quantum computing and quantum technologies is one of those things that surprised me. And that I think when I entered the community and just started learning more about it, I think I had a very narrow view of what maybe applications were. And I'd heard all sorts of things about quantum computing, like its ability to increase calculation power and stuff like that. But I never really, I guess I hadn't really thought about all the impacts and what a quantum centric world might look like. And I think just being involved in this has made me get a greater sense of that, like we've been speaking about, the influences it could have on medicine, on security. And I think just the impact has been one thing that has surprised me. in a sense, I think before I entered, it was very much a thing of it being a community that is in itself very theoretical, I think. And I think for me, it was enough for me to not necessarily think there was much going on because it was so theoretical. I thought it was nothing intangible that people were working towards. But the moment I entered the community, I started learning about all these applications that exist for quantum computers. And they are truly incredible and truly exciting things. And I think they've only made me more excited about quantum computing. So yeah, that's what surprised me.
Sounds good. Ada, any surprises from your end?
Firstly, I must say that I think quantum computing is just full of surprises. But what surprises me most is that I should probably say that the three basic laws of quantum computing. To begin with, superposition. When I was 10, I learned that the computers are made from numbers, ones and zeros. But at the age of 15, I learned that quantum bits, I mean qubits, can be either 0 and 1 at the same time. So this just kind of blew my mind. And to come to second law, the quantum interface, when I just learned that quantum bits can behave like just waves and particles at the same time, it surprised me too. And to come entanglements, I learned that quantum bits can interact with each other without distance. So this also surprises me as well as the other two uh, laws too. So when I just learned these three laws, it just changed the perspective that I'm looking. So I think these are the most things that surprises me about quantum computing.
Okay, sounds good. Vidranga.
So, as Arda said, definitely quantum mechanics is something pretty surprising. So, apart from that, what surprised me is the exponential speed up in quantum computing that can be used in some problems. Because sometimes I'm a lazy person, so I think in the future, even though now I have to learn a lot about quantum mechanics and quantum computing to do those, but maybe in the future I can consider writing algorithms that solves complex problems with I mean, less work on to optimize that algorithm just because the limitations of classical computers. So I think that would be a better opportunity for lazy persons as well.
Sounds good. Okay, so as we thank you very much, guys, for your time. As we end this, I just want to give you guys 30 seconds each. That is Mwaki, Ada, and Vidranga to just speak to somebody who is in high school, who is getting started in quantum. What would you say to them? Anything that you want to say to them to just clear this way in case they are interested in getting started but are hesitant, not sure, also are afraid that quantum physics, the mathematics, linear algebra, matrices, tensors, and many of the other things that have surprised you guys. Some other people may be afraid of those. How are you going to, perhaps, or what would you say to somebody who is just scared of quantum?
I would probably suggest two basic things. The first thing is that you should have interest in science and computers. So if you're just curious about computers, softwares, hardwares, you should definitely work for quantum. And the other thing is math. You should have a strong math to understand quantum mechanics and how just quantum bits can behave at small scale. So I would probably suggest the interest about computers and the mathematics background.
Sounds good. Yes, Mwaki, then Vidranga.
Yeah, I think I just say take it all in, but take it one step at a time. I think one of the biggest things about quantum computing is just how scary and high sounding it can all be at times. But I think realizing that you know, a lot of people don't know, most people don't know, no one's necessarily an expert, and that it's okay to not know is really important and really useful in this experience. Because I think one of the biggest things I've taken away from my own quantum journey is sometimes just being willing to step into that unknown. As scary as it may be, can have unbelievable opportunities open up for you. So I think when you see any resource available, try it out. When you see a video, a book, whatever it is, like get into it. If you see a course going on, if Qubit by Qubit has a summer course, if you see Qiskit is doing lectures, absorb it all, but don't be afraid if you don't get it at first. Most people don't, I think. And it's just okay to realize that, hey, um, it's all right to not know everything. It's just about knowing the little that you do and expanding on it when you can.
Sounds good. Thanks for that. If you Dranga.
Yeah, I would like to share two things. First, you should be interested in maths. As I said, you need a good background in maths, but that doesn't mean if you are afraid of maths, just try to learn the basic concepts of the math behind that. So anyway, maths is an interesting subject that normally schools won't show you the interesting part. So you should get interested in maths on your own. So the second thing is never lose an opportunity. You should apply to everything you can see, whether it's a course or a scholarship or whatever. Just take that opportunity, because even if you take the probability, uh, if you don't apply for something, you have zero probability to get it. So my advice is just take on every opportunity and just wait for how life will serve you the opportunity to see.
Sounds good. So thank you very much, guys. And perhaps in closing, I wanted to say it's very important. I'll also speak to whoever is out there and say quantum computers exist today, albeit in their limited form, but they are also improving very fast. They are likely to have, far-reaching impact in the space. In terms of tackling certain problems that our classical computers are not optimized to handle. There are great communities out there which are available to support everyone on their journey. The good thing about it is with Quantum at the moment has got open communities which you can join, and there are a lot of people you can reach out to. If you could open a LinkedIn account, that would be great, and start connecting and following the people that you think you admire, and reach out to them, and they'll always be willing to support you and introduce you to the next person if ever they're not the best one to help you. And yeah, let's make quantum a reality now. Quantum is a reality today and now. And there are people who are employed in quantum. There are companies, startups that are, growing in quantum. There are vendors that are, traditionally we have known them to be in classical, but we're also taking an interest in quantum. And we have seen even in high performance computing, most of the players there have got a quantum direction that they are beginning to also pick on. So it's because quantum technologies have got far-reaching consequences in business and in life as we know it. So it's important to pay attention. You don't need to be an expert overnight. It's just about getting started, finding support, getting to know people, and you sooner than later you realize that you meet somebody who's just like you, who shares the similar perhaps a perspective and interests, and together you can work together on things and take them forward. And the world has shrinked to be smaller, which is why we have got all these people that are here today are from different corners of the world, but quantum has enabled us to connect, and definitely there's a lot of opportunity in connecting with people across the globe, in keeping in touch with what's happening and all that. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for this meeting, and all the best with what you guys are working on. Let's keep in touch and keep in touch with each other as well beyond beyond these initiatives that we do. I think it will be great for you guys to keep in touch with each other and talking like somebody who has been in high school before. When I was in high school, I couldn't even imagine having a colleague outside my hometown. Unless we would meet somewhere physically, you know, we would never know each other. But you guys, you know, you have got this going on, and through these different perspectives that you share, coming from different communities and having different journeys to get to where we are today, you know, there's a lot of wealth in it in terms of supporting each other to grow and to just understand the world broadly as it would be, which is what quantum needs, right? So yeah, thank you very much. And I guess we have to end this meeting here, and I'm really, really honored. And it's a pleasure that you guys could find time to make this happen. So yeah, I'm really grateful, and all the best with what you're working on. I guess all of you guys have my email. Let's keep in touch. If you need anything, let me know, and we'll figure out how to take it forward. But get us your friends, bring them in the communities, and let's make the quantum community bigger and better every day. So yeah, I'll allow you to collect emails that are being shared on the chat before I terminate the meeting. So yeah, otherwise with that, you're allowed to leave the meeting if you feel that you're good.